going to dive in. I'm going to, I want to share a training later this week. Just quick FYI. So later this week, we're going to do a small summary of LinkedIn and how to kind of generate some leads there, depending on where you're at. Okay. It's going to be overview with a couple of strategies. It's not going to be incredibly in-depth. But I'm going to give you guys a little bit of heads up on LinkedIn and how to utilize that. We're also going to get into, over the next couple of weeks, some other things with organic and groups and other things like that. So a lot of that stuff coming up. All right.
Andrew, I got a question. Well, I know that you're going to, or the YouTube channel started like recently, but are you going to update the sheet, the drive with the calls? Because I missed some, and I want to like look at them and
yes. So I'm going to update that, and if you guys can drop into, if you'd like the slides from last week on like mentorship and your core group and all that kind of stuff, if you'd like that, then do me a favor and actually, V, if you can, you know what I'll do? I'll just do a blast. Everybody that's been on in like the last week, I'll just send that out and share the slides with everyone that was on like in the last week instead of everybody. So V, if we can just make that list like we normally do when we send out kind of notices.
If you're going to do that, I'm going to send you my email because I don't know like when was that call, and I want to.
Well, it was so last week was a series. It was maybe 4 days, 4 or 5 of the days, all of it, and we'll get it sent out. So I'll do that. There's a couple of the recordings that need to still get updated from the end of last week, so those will go on there, and then we'll send out the slides with everybody. Okay, so. On that note, yes, you can absolutely get it. Hopefully, medically everything as well. Not just for you, but a few others. So, welcome everybody. All right, here's what we're going to do. Some of you guys are fairly new. A couple of you guys joined, over the last couple of days. It's, first one was yesterday or today.
Andrew, your audio is breaking up completely.
Yeah, it's crackling a lot.
Phone, and my video's back on. So. I apologize for that. My computer, these last couple of days, my audio has been a nightmare. So guess it's just time for a new one. All right. So we're going to dive in, guys. Appreciate your patience. Let's get going. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the way that we think, the way that we look at everything. There's a phrase that I use on occasion, and some of you guys have heard this. I did this training back at the beginning of November. So a couple of you guys I know have heard it. There's going to end up being a little bit more to it. And I want you guys to add to it as well. So there's a phrase that I always talk about as you're building your business. You need to look at things. It's always the macro patience and micro speed. It's macro thinking and micro activities. It's the big picture. And then it's daily tasks and activities are what's going to get you to that. Now, some people struggle with that. And there's a couple of different things, where this all boils down to there's a handful of things in here. Some of you guys are going to say, well, it's all semantics, but it's really not. There are some differences. So that's kind of what I want to dive into here. Okay. So on that note, when you're looking at things, a lot of times you look at what's right in front of you, and it's hard to picture everything else, especially as you're beginning and you're starting a new project. You're getting ready for launch, and we're looking at things and we're saying, hey, I want to get going, but the only thing I can think of is, the new domain, getting my ClickFunnels set up. How am I going to get this customized? What am I going to do here? What is the business page versus the personal page? Which one should I do? And people start looking at different things. And instead of doing just that, you need to be able to step back, and we have to at times look at things from a slightly different perspective. So, it's kind of this whole thing, right? If all we're doing is we're looking at the frame, all you see is that little piece. And yet if you step back, there's this whole broad picture of what we're missing, right? That panoramic view of everything that's going on. City planning is a great way to look at it. When we're looking down, are we able to kind of look at what needs to happen, in the broad sense? Or are we focused on how long the one individual light is taking to turn, right? Different elements of that is kind of what I'm talking about. It's just the same reason when people look at this and you have the empty, the full. here's kind of what I want you guys to think about. There's this difference between perception and perspective. Now, we're going to read this and talk about it a little bit because I want you guys to understand macro, micro, perception, perspective, because this is where a lot of people say, look, listen, it's just, you're absolutely diving into semantics. It's this logic loop that goes around and round and you can never figure it out. And it's not quite that way. Perception is what you interpret. It is your understanding of a given situation, person, or object. It's the meaning you assign to any given stimulus. Perspective is your point of view, the lens that you see the world through, and determines how you view yourself, others, and everything else around you. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we got some philosophers on here. We have highly intelligent people in this group. Can someone talk to me and someone like to offer an idea what they think, explain that in layman's terms, as it were, and we'll kind of keep that going. But what's the difference between perception and perspective?
I think I can. I'm not that intelligent.
You're highly intelligent. Stop. Don't ever do that. This is not the place. None of you guys, and just because I've talked with Maria enough, I know she's okay with it. She's always on these calls. Guys, don't ever hop on and like disparage yourself. And don't do that here. Don't do it anywhere. We do that too much. And we do it because we think that other people will think us, I don't know, arrogant if we answer without downplaying ourselves first. Just don't do that. Don't. Maria, what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, perception. I'm going to put like very common example. For example, sure. Americans with Colombians have the perception that Colombians are drug dealers and all this stuff. Like we are violent. That's the perception that they have, or you guys have from us. And perspective is, for example, when there is a problem and, for example, someone is a drug addict in my family. And for example, the point of view from my father is different from the perspective of my mother's. I don't know if is the angle from where you look at the problem. I don't know if that's
okay. Yeah, in a way. So this is kind of that next step. The perception of a reality that controls our perspective. How we perceive things is what ends up controlling the perspective, right? Our beliefs are created from here. There's a lot of different places that our beliefs come from. But this is what creates that lens that we're looking at the world with, right? So places that we get our lenses, mentors, parents, like you just mentioned, Maria, religion, school, how we grew up, society, news, all of these different things create the way that we look at the world, right? Now, a lot of that now comes into, it's like, this is a picture that I kind of like with this when we're looking at things. So our point of view, what we've got, how we perceive what's right in front of us. Does everyone kind of get what we're looking at with this? If you blind yourself and all you have is this immediate thing, right? Not seeing the forest through the trees. Have you guys heard that saying? If all you've got is this one little piece of the picture, if all you focus on is one small piece of the pie, then you're missing out on something much bigger, right? Mm-hmm. Why is that important as you begin a journey as an entrepreneur? Why is it important to have the macro view and not just the micro view? I'm not saying one is I am saying the macro is a little bit better, and I'm going to show you why in a second, because science actually has proven that it is, but you do need some of the micro. But why is it important to be able to have a big picture view? Why is it important to be able to have a macro view when you're building your business?
Why is it important to have a macro view while building the business?
Big picture.
Okay, that's your why, right? Is the big picture.
Well, yeah. So it can be why, it can be what you're putting into, or the way that you're looking at the business, and just like looking at the overall growth of the business and what I'm going to be doing that's going to allow me to achieve my why. All of those things. Why is that important as opposed to just the micro?
when you come across a hurdle, which I just said this today or yesterday. I said, why is it that every time I try to get ahead, there's a block, or I go back and 2 steps back, 1 step forward, but I hurdle it. So thinking about the big picture will get you through all of those little things that get you stuck, those little hurdles.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big part of it. And what Aga's saying in the chat, when you face the obstacles, it's easy to forget about the dream, right? So it's always this. Go ahead, Aga.
Last week, I was having an operation, and that was literally the great example of what we're talking about now. Because after any medical procedure, you're basically so this is the worst time to make your judgments. And how I felt was because you're limited in certain aspects. I'm not talking oh, poor me. I'm just giving an example, by the way, just to make it clear. And it's just a terrible time to make your decision. Say your never, say whatever I have, I can do whatever I can achieve, because you feel like you can do nothing. And I literally had to tell myself, I'm not making any decisions in this state of mind, because that's just the wrong, that's just not the part, not the situation.
Because we're so involved in what's happening right that moment right now, right? And Michelle's saying you can miss the critical elements that can ruin your business. Yeah, absolutely. So anticipation of potential possibilities, or in the fear of those. So what happens a lot of times, and this is where over and over and over again, over the course of the last few years, I've worked with regular businesses online, guys. A business is a business. I don't care if it's online, if it's a brick and mortar, if it's a service company, I don't care what it is. We all have obstacles, right? Now, if I've got a brick and mortar business, it may not be, my email provider is down, and so that's screwing up my customer. It's going to be, the truck. It's going to be, what kind of tire should I put on? But that's one of those elements when I've said this phrase to a couple of you guys, but there's, scale of 1 to 10, the items that are important, those 8, 9s, and 10s, the big picture stuff. That's what's going to get you to the next level. Worrying about the 1s and 2s and 3s are what slow you down, and they keep you from ever moving forward. Talking with some of you, talking with others, where it's I spent the last 4 days researching, my domain name. Stop it. Pick one. Move forward. Go. Right. It's the same, I wanted to go to, it's like the person that has a fleet of trucks in the service industry that drives makes their people drive all the way across town to get to a certain mechanic that's going to change the oil for $5 cheaper, because that's what they're wanting to do. And they forget the fact, big picture, that they're losing money in the drive and everything else, right? It's when I was working with, now I'm going to show some elements how big picture people think, how small, detail oriented. So if you consider yourself super detail oriented, odds are you struggle a little bit with the macro, right? And it's not that there's anything wrong. It's that you've got to be able to adjust some of your view. So when I was doing cleaning and restoration, guys, and I've mentioned this before, and so I speak Portuguese and Spanish. I spent some time in Brazil. My ex and her parents were Brazilian. I met them here in the States. We started doing cleaning and restoration. It was just us. Just him, and then it was just us, and then I built it up a little bit. We had some employees, and then hurricanes. I'm in Florida. Charlie, Jean, and Francis. I want to say it was 2003. 3 hurricanes came through in a matter of months, destroyed a huge portions of Florida. We went and did a lot of work. During that time, I had a dozen guys working for me, and met a guy that did large scale commercial restoration remodeling work. Right? Big stuff. Like he would go around the country when natural disasters would hit, all over North America, into Canada, down to Mexico, everywhere. So Hurricane Katrina comes through. My second son is born. 2 days later, I'm in a van heading up to Mississippi and Louisiana to work, living in a tent for months. We got work. This was the guy that I met that did the big commercial work, said, hey, I've got all the equipment. Why don't you bring up some people to work, right? Because who's the most willing to work during that time, guys? It's immigrants, right? Wasn't a bunch of Americans. It was, Spanish and Portuguese came in real handy. Had a lot of Brazilians and other people working for us. Anyway, we get up there. We started with about 20. after a while, I got about 125 guys that are working for me. We're doing a lot of work. We had 45 schools, we had hospitals, we had banks. I mean, a lot of work we were doing. So in walks my ex-business partner. We'll call her my business partner, right? I won't. She was my ex-mother-in-law. She had very much the detail-oriented, couldn't see big picture to save her life. Was, if you want to talk cash flow quadrant, as firmly entrenched in that S quadrant as you will ever find anybody, right? Like, why am I paying someone else to do this when I can do it? Well, so she comes up one time and she was so frustrated because she had to come up and she had to write checks for 120 guys, right? Every other week she'd come up, and because she didn't trust me to do it. This is big picture stuff. She didn't want me to do it because she wanted control. It's not that she didn't trust me, but she had to do it all, right? You guys know this kind of person. Nobody else can do it but her. I don't want to give up control for anything. So she would drive 14 hours to get from Orlando up to where we were every other week so that she could write checks. And then she would leave, right? And she was so mad about writing those checks. And these people were earning really good money. So she was writing out checks for 6 figures. Now, she was so frustrated about that. Forget the fact that she was earning 6 figures a week with what we were doing, because government insurance pays really well in those situations, right? They really do. We were earning really good money, but that frustrated her, writing those checks. And so you got to imagine 125 guys. We're working probably 80 hours a week. The insurance was paying for overtime. So it came out to be a pretty chunk of change. Well, they were also, the guy that had contracted us to do the work, my friend, said they were paying us for the vans because insurance would pay a little bit for daily rental of the vans to get people to and from job sites, right? Any of you guys in construction kind of know, you get your per diem. They'll give you an allotment of different things. Well, the per diem for the vans that they were giving us was $75. The cost that we were spending to rent the vans, $110, I want to say. So we were losing $35 a day on 5 vans. No, 6 vans. Okay, because we would do a couple of trips. 6 vans, $35. Someone want to do the math real quick? What's that worked out to? 205, 215, something like that.
210.
210. So we were losing $210 a day on the vans. We were making, they were profiting, we were making. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law were doing really well. They were clearing somewhere between 50 and 100K a week, but they were losing $210 a day on those vans. She walked into a meeting. She walked into a meeting with the guy that had brought me on and threatened to leave if she didn't get paid more for those vans. Extreme example, obviously. And she got up in the meeting and said, if this doesn't get taken care of, I'm going to leave. I'm going to walk out of here. They said, that's fine. We just want Andrew. Anyway, that caused a whole other issue, different conversation, different story. And she backed down because she realized, oh my gosh, I'd be giving up way too much. Exactly. The forest and the trees, big picture and too detail oriented, right? Obviously super extreme example, incredibly extreme. And none of you guys on here are doing that. But sometimes we need those extremes to understand what's going on. The perception and the perspective, these beliefs are created in 2 different ways, right? They're created because we perceive things a certain way. We do things over and over and over again, and it reinforces that, right? Over and over and over again, we reinforce it. Or something happens that changes your perspective, right? So it's either something major happens or it's that constant, consistent new information over and over and over again, right? So, but we've got to be able to look at the macro and micro. There's a couple of reasons. I'm going to take just a few more minutes here today, guys. And then tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit more about how to add in some more big picture thinking. These are some items typical of big picture. Quickly see the pattern in complex problems. You like the new ideas, new projects, low tolerance for busy work, like the tedious errands, filling out forms. Like you just get frustrated with that. I don't like doing some of that. Like give me somebody to do it. I don't want to do that. Here you go. To have somebody else do it, right? great at outlining what needs to be done, and we'll figure out the details, right? You may have been described as right brain. Now, detail oriented. Nothing wrong with being detail oriented. We need that in our business. There's a balance that we need to have, macro and micro, within our business. But we can't be overwhelmed with just the details, or you'll struggle getting ahead. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So you think about things in great detail, sometimes miss the big picture, right? So focused on some of these little things, whether it's Facebook or the group versus the page versus the personal page. And what about this? And what about that? And we overthink some of those things. And I've had to say that to a couple of you. I say it to myself. I say it with my fiance at times. Whoa. Just stop. You're overthinking it. It's more simple. Just simplify it. Like you don't need all of that, right? Now, that attention to detail comes in handy. But like when we're looking at ads, for example, and you're looking at your overall campaigns, you need to be able to balance out the macro and the micro. You need the big picture, but you have to be able to look at details as well, right? But if you look too much at the details, that's when people will, turn off a campaign before it's had a chance to really go, because they're not looking overall picture, right? Does this make sense, guys? You've got to be able to balance this stuff, right? Some extra things. So this is, if you are a big picture, these are some things that you kind of will say, just give me the gist of it. All I need is a few bullet points. What are you trying to get to, right? If you're the type of person that takes, 30 minutes to tell a story that probably could have been told in 2, then you're too detailed. You're not looking big picture. What's the purpose behind it, right? Ideas and concept. Some of you guys, when we talk about the big picture, when we talk about your why, when we talk about the purpose behind it, and you give me a goal and I say, why that? And you haven't established anything else. It's just the detail, right? So here's why. Look, this is the whole why is this stuff important? Here's a quick little statistic for you. Big picture thinking is linked to venture success for entrepreneurs. Did you know that? Okay. 30 to 48% more likely to think in broad terms than the rest of us. And they're more motivated in that 30 to 50% realm as well. So if you're going, hey, I struggle with motivation. I struggle with daily motivation. I struggle with keeping myself focused and doing different things. You're not looking at the big picture enough. You're too focused here and you're not looking at the bigger part of it. What can I do to concretely change it? That's a great question, and exactly what I've got for you guys set for tomorrow. Because I'm going to give you a handful of specific things that you can do to work on big picture thinking, and start to develop it, right? Don't get away from, hey, you need details. Yeah, I got to do a little bit of a cliffhanger. Otherwise, I'm here for an hour. So you've got to have the balance between the macro and the micro. You've got to understand that the micro are the tasks that help us accomplish, that create the habits, that help us accomplish the goals that will get us towards our dreams, right? That's what it's all about, guys. This is the other day we talked about systems versus, habits or resolutions and being able to create all of this. All of you guys are capable of doing any of it. It's not that big picture and detail, one is right and one is wrong. It's that you need a balance and you've got to be able to look at everything. Otherwise, you're going to fall. Now, if you are too much a head in the clouds kind of person as well, there are some things you need to do to bring in some details or outsource it out so somebody gets that shit done. Excuse my French, right? Sometimes you need that. Absolutely.
I have a question because I have a lot going on and I do need someone to organize me and keep me, because I do have so many things and I'm like, oh, but how do you?
I got you.
Yeah, a virtual assistant. I think I need somebody in person. Maybe I don't know if a virtual assistant.
Why do you need someone in person? That's just a habit. That's and look, the world that we're in.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so accustomed to having someone right here to hold my hand. That's a level of self-awareness and self-mastery. And if you don't learn some of that and push yourself and kick your own ass to get what that is done. Now we can talk, Timothy. I'm totally willing. We can chat, talk a little bit about strategy, look at VAs versus this versus that, different things that you can do. And I'll talk with you guys about, because self-awareness and self-mastery is one of the things I'm going to be talking about. And guys, understand all of these things that I train on. There are things that I've struggled with in the past. I've worked with in the past. I'm currently working on. please don't ever think that I'm standing up on, behind a pulpit preaching down at you. This is the stuff I deal with all the time, right? Absolutely. And there are moments when you get, where I get into the weeds with one thing or another, or I've got to remind myself and come back down to it, or you may have things in your life right now. I've got certain things going on where I'm in the macro on some of it and I'm getting it and we're moving it forward, and others that I'm in the micro and I'm getting bogged down because those details, because I know I struggle with them. And so it frustrates me. And then I'm not doing this. And then, hey.
No, you are patronizing us.
Well, I want to, and I appreciate that, Maria. Occasionally.
No. I'm just kidding.
So,
I'm kidding.
So, absolutely. So, guys, let's, what we need to do. And yeah, Kim, it is in the online world. This is why self-mastery and controlling what you're doing and having a schedule and having your block times and having the strategy. Like, this is the only thing I'm going to do today on this, because that's part of my micro tasks, because otherwise it's too easy. We're overwhelmed with, bombarded with noise in so many different directions. So in that regard, you guys think a little bit about where you're at. Look up big picture thinking, detailed thinking, do the Myers-Briggs, we're going to get into self-awareness and looking where we're at. And, part of why I talk about some of this stuff, the more you can understand how you think, the easier it is to start to work on changing. So Michelle, tomorrow, to answer directly your question, I am going to give you guys some specific things you can do to work on big picture thinking, how to develop that. Every time I get an opportunity to do some type of self-awareness exercise, exam, quiz, something, I take it. I'm not talking about like the Facebook, what Twilight character you are, what Disney princess you are. I'm talking about something that legitimately helps you understand who you are, how you think, and what's going on, behind this veneer that we have, right? The more you understand that, and this goes to what Tara was saying yesterday, guys, it allows you to be authentic in your marketing, in your groups. That's a big part of it, right? The more that you can create that, the better it'll be. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, you all are fantastic. I appreciate you being here. It makes what I do that much easier. Go out, figure out what the hell's burning down around you, and understand that no matter what is happening, you can always rise up and rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you are. Have an amazing day, guys. I will be back tomorrow. I will talk with you soon. Take care,
Andrew,
yes.
Before you go,
yes.
Last week I told you I wanted to speak with you like in a one-on-one meeting. I don't know if that's possible.
I've got a couple of kind of open Zoom timeframes. That would probably be the best time for right now. So I've got a time this evening. I've got a couple tomorrow. Send me a quick email. I'll send it back to you guys. Just so you guys know, I am going to be on Friday. I'm going to have either a guest host or a recording that I will send out of a training, because it's Sierra's birthday and we're doing Disney. So other than that, send me an email if you guys need anything. Love you all. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. We'll talk soon, guys.
Thanks, Andrew. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Sundar, I see you there. Yeah. So we're going to get slides out. Sundar,
Yeah.
you hopped on as I right after I said that. We're sending everybody. We're going to send the slides from last week for
Super.
like the whole build your core group and mentors and joint ventures and all of that. So there's, I think, 30, 40 slides. So everybody's going to get that.
Wow.
These calls, where are these calls? It's not in
You
the
should have-
accelerated.
No,
I had to jump off yesterday, and
you should have the Google Doc, and then the new ones are going to start to be added. I've got someone editing and adding stuff on. They'll be on YouTube here this week.
Oh, okay. It's the YouTube channel that I go.
Well,
to.
but right, the recordings, you've got them on the Google Drive. I'll get it to you. I know you've got it, but I'll get it. I'll get it back to you.
No, I'll look. I'll if I can't find it, I'll reach out. But okay.
All right, guys.
Can I get the video in Google Drive?
Yes,
please?
sir. You
Okay.
got it,
Thank you.
Sundar. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.